Pittsburgh. A jury acquitted a white former police officer Friday in the fatal shooting of an unarmed black teenager as he was fleeing a high-stakes traffic stop outside Pittsburgh, a confrontation that was captured on video and led to weeks of unrest. Former East Pittsburgh police officer Michael Rosefeld was charged with homicide for killing Antoine Rose II last June. Rose was riding in an unlicensed taxi that had been involved in a drive-by shooting minutes earlier when Rosefeld pulled the car over and shot the 17-year-old in the back, arm and side of the face as he ran away. The panel of 7 men and 5 women including 3 black jurors saw video of the fatal confrontation, which showed Rose falling to the ground after being hit. The acquittal came after fewer than 4 hours of deliberations on the 4th day of the trial. Rose's family remained stoic as the verdict was read, with his mother telling his sister not to cry. Rosefeld's wife began sobbing, and she and Rosefeld were hustled out of the courtroom by deputies. There were tears and gasps in an overflow courtroom, and several people broke out in song. Antoine Rose was a freedom fighter, and he taught us how to fight. After the verdict, a group of about 100 protesters headed to the trendy East Liberty neighborhood, about 5 miles 8 kilometers from the downtown Pittsburgh courthouse, and they blocked intersections and briefly entered 2 hotels, chanting 17 for Rose's age and reading a poem written by Rose. The family's attorney, S. Lee Merritt, had urged a murder conviction, saying before closing arguments that it's pretty obvious. Rose was not a threat to Rosefeld. He said afterward that Rose's mother, Michelle Kenny, was upset about the state of the law. But she didn't really expect a different verdict, given other high-profile cases in which police officers have either avoided charges or won acquittals in the shooting deaths of African Americans. She has joined a community of mothers who have lost children in really horrific ways, he said. Rose's death, one of many high-profile killings of black men and teens by white police officers in recent years, spurred angry protests in the Pittsburgh area last year, including a late-night march that shut down a major highway. Defense lawyer Patrick Tomasi told reporters that Rosefeld is a good man. He said to me many times, "Patrick, this has nothing to do with the kid's color. I was doing what I was trained to do." Tomasi said he hoped the city remained calm, and everybody takes a deep breath and gets on with their lives. Stephen Zappala Jr., the district attorney in Pittsburgh, said he disagreed with the decision. At trial, the prosecution and the defense sparred over whether Rosefeld, who'd worked for the East Pittsburgh Police Department for only a few weeks and was officially sworn in just hours before the fatal shooting, was justified in using lethal force. Assistant District Attorney Jonathan Fody declared in his closing argument that Rosefeld had acted as judge, jury and executioner, and the video evidence showed there was no threat to the officer. "We don't shoot first and ask questions later," the prosecutor added. But the former officer told the jury he thought Rose or another suspect had a gun pointed at him, insisting he fired his weapon to protect himself and the community. Neither teen was holding one when Rosefeld opened fire, though 2 guns were later found in the car. "It happened very quickly," Rosefeld said. "My intent was to end the threat that was made against me." A defense expert testified Rosefeld was within his rights to use deadly force to stop suspects he thought had been involved in a shooting. Rose had been riding in the front seat of the cab when another occupant, Zywan Hester, in the back, rolled down a window and shot at 2 men on the street, hitting one in the abdomen. A few minutes later, Rosefeld spotted their car, which had its rear windshield shot out, and pulled it over. Rosefeld ordered the driver to the ground, but Rose and another passenger jumped out and began running away. Rosefeld fired 3 times in quick succession. The defense said the shooting was justified because Rosefeld believed he was in danger and couldn't wait for other officers to get there. "He's a sitting duck. Tomasi told jurors in his closing argument, asking them to consider the standard of what a reasonable police officer would do under the circumstances. Prosecutors had charged Roosevelt with an open count of homicide, meaning the jury had the option of convicting him of murder or manslaughter. The prosecution said Roosevelt gave inconsistent statements about the shooting, including whether he thought Rose was armed. Hester, 18, pleaded guilty last week to aggravated assault and firearms violations. Hester told a judge that he, not Rose, did the shooting. This story has been corrected to show that Tomasi said Roosevelt referred to Rose's color, not his race. Associated Press writer Michael Rubenkamp in northeastern Pennsylvania contributed to this story.